I want to do a couple things. One is I just want to talk to you briefly about what's going on with the super committee. And because I know that's in the news all the time, and the report is going to come out here shortly, and I see some people going like this. And I have a little bit different take on the super committee than most of what you hear in the news. There are people who say it's unconstitutional, the super committee itself. I agree with that. I do think it's unconstitutional. There are people who are, most people are bought in on both the left and the right, arguing about what the super committee should do. And we had one of our national coordinators who was at a conference in DC 2 weeks ago, Americans for Prosperity, Heritage, all these people were at this conference, and they were all offering their own opinions as to what the super committee should do. And the person who was there, her name is Diana Reimer. I think she's in her late 60s. She's prior to the movement, she has no political experience. She's kind of the quintessential grandma. And her response to all of these people who are all putting forth their proposals about what the super committee should do is, are you insane? Do you understand that this is fake? This is kabuki theater. The super committee is actually doing nothing. They're doing nothing. And there's nothing they can do legally. No Congress can bind a future Congress in regards to spending. It just simply can't be done. The 112th Congress, which is in session right now, can only financially bind the 112th Congress. Now they're talking, their mandate, what they're actually empowered to do, is to propose cuts over the next 10 years. Their mandate was $1.2 trillion in cuts, which, by the way, presuming that they execute on their mandate and they legally could, would cause us to have another debt downgrade, because the ratings institutions have said they need to see at least $4 trillion in real cuts. Okay, so number one, they're poised, and their goal is to make sure that our debt is downgraded again. That's the goal of the super committee. Number two is, all these cuts are what I call phantom cuts. They're fake. They're not real. They will never take place. The 112th Congress can say, here are the 1.2, and Obama has come out, and he's a big guy, he said 1.5 trillion in cuts. They will be made, allegedly, over the next 10 years. So as soon as the 112th Congress adjourns for its session, and we have a new Congress, we get a 113th Congress, do you think that they're going to impose the pain chosen by a previous Congress? The answer is no. They won't. They can't. And the truth is, if you look historically, they never have. This is the reason that Reagan in his diary talked about, remember he was trading $1 for $1 tax cuts versus spending? Well, he got the tax increases. Sorry, he got the tax increases, he gave those, and he never got the spending cuts. His diary said this is one of his greatest regrets, was making that trade. We're allegedly making this trade, and the cuts will never come. And my personal frustration is that you have groups like Heritage and AFP and all these other organizations. In fact, the vast majority of conservative organizations have bought in to the kabuki theater that is the super committee. And I think what we should be saying, what I say if I get a chance to go on the air and say it, is that it's all fake. And that this is crazy, it's unconstitutional, and it's not going to do anything. But they've taken our eye off the ball. There is something that Congress can cut. And there's only one thing that Congress can cut, and that's money that's being spent now in their session. That's the only thing that they can make cuts to. And so they're not doing that. There are numerous examples. You have the CBO, or the General Accounting Office, come out, all these programs, Coburn and Senator Coburn and so forth, all these duplicative programs, they haven't cut one of them. Not a single one of them. And these recommendations came out in February. They're not serious about cutting spending, and we as the citizens have to reject the kabuki theater of the super committee. We have to reject all these big spending cuts. The Mint wrote a letter about 2 weeks ago. If you haven't seen it, I recommend looking at this letter. I'll summarize it for you. The people in Washington are dirty, rotten liars. That's basically what he said. He said they're not serious. They're giving away the future of the nation. They're totally dishonest. And that's what's going on in D.C. That's what we have with a Republican majority in the House of Representatives. So I just want to make sure that we're all paying attention to that. We all understand the reality of what's going on. We don't get sucked in by the theater of what's going on there.
And they won't let good legislation go to the floor.
So Kim was talking about, Tom McClintock obviously is a principled guy. All of us know him well. He's been proposing things since he's been there. that would make real cuts, and they won't let any of that get to the floor. They won't even let it be voted on. It's not that they don't have the support to pass it. The leadership of the Republican Party refuses to allow spending cuts to come to the floor. Again, this is what we're dealing with in leadership in D.C. Our job is to stay strong and to continue to fight. They'll call us radical Tea Partiers. They'll tell us we don't understand how it's done. We do understand. We have very clear vision, and I encourage you, don't let your vision get clouded by what these clowns in D.C. are doing, and frankly, the clowns on television and the radio, those who are buying into this process and arguing about what the super committee should do. You know, I told a story. We had the California Coordinators Conference last weekend. It was really incredible. 100 coordinators from all around the state got together, talked about specifically about California's problems, how they can work together, how they can speak with one voice in California. And I got asked to speak there, and I told a story that came out of something that happened in my family recently about clarity of vision. And Patty recently went in and was feeling like, like most of us, we're all getting a little older, it's a little harder to see. And so she went to the optometrist to say, I think maybe the TV's a little blurry, maybe the signs at night are a little far away or a little bit blurry. So she went in to get glasses or to talk to them. And the doctor prescribed glasses for her. And she went and picked up those glasses. They've got a perfect, perfect frames, they look perfect, she liked them, they're comfortable. And for the next 2 weeks, she was doing this all the time, on and off and on and off. And it seemed like in order to read clearly, she had to take them off. And it seemed like in order to see the television more clearly, she wasn't sure, but she thought it might have been better or the same with them off. When we were driving at night, which is one of the things she had, and she would take them off. And they had wide sides, like a lot of sunglasses, so they were kind of blocking her peripheral vision. She couldn't figure it out because she'd gone to the doctor, and the doctor gave her glasses to see better, right? And so she finally went back to the doctor and didn't actually see the doctor. She saw the guy that fits you for the actual physical glasses. And he went in and he retested her vision. And he said, well, the problem is that historically you had 2015 vision. And now you have 2020 vision. These glasses are intended to correct you back to slightly better than 2020 than you had before. But really, frankly, you saw perfectly without them. You really don't need glasses. And I think this is a pretty good parallel for what is going on in the movement, and I really think that we need to watch out for, which is the politicians will tell us that we just don't quite understand how politics are done. We don't understand the reality of politics. And you have people even inside the movement who have started to get engaged in lobbying, and some have become paid political workers, and nothing's wrong with that, but they're starting to see things from a perspective of people who are professional political people. Politicians, lobbyists, staffers are spending all this time with those people, and they're being told, maybe you don't see things just right. You need to adjust your vision a little bit now that you understand how things work from the inside. I would argue that the Tea Party vision, that vision of citizen governance and self-governance was perfect when we started in the movement. We understood what was wrong. We knew that government had drifted away from the people. We knew government wasn't fiscally responsible. We knew we needed to put it back in the box, make it smaller, make it less intrusive. We knew we needed to support free market principles. We knew we needed to go back to the Constitution. We had perfect vision when we started this movement. I encourage all of you, don't let the politicians, don't let the talking heads, don't let the pundits, don't let anybody tell you that you need to improve your political vision. Trust what you know about self-governance. I know you're right. So I want to introduce somebody now, and this is Bill Norton. Bill was coming to town to do an event at the Vacaville Tea Party Patriots. And what Bill does is he's worked for National Center for Constitutional Studies for over 10 years. Any of you are familiar with the book 5,000 Year Lead? Yeah. So Bill was personally tutored and mentored by Skousen himself, and he's committed his life for over a decade to understanding the founding principles as well as the founders themselves. To read everything that he can possibly read, to know everything, to possibly know what those men were thinking contemporaneously, what did they write, what did other people say about them, so that people have a true vision of what the Constitution and the related documents, the amendments really mean. And I think this is an extraordinary thing. Bill did this not as a paid profession, because he was passionate about his country, and he believed that this was a calling for him to do. And I can tell you it's borne fruit. we were recently at a conference together at Harvard with constitutional law professor Lawrence Lessig, a bunch of other famous legal professors, legal scholars from around the country, Larry Tribe, Sanderson, a bunch of folks who are respected authorities on both the left and the right on the Constitution. And Bill was one of the organizers of that conference. And Bill sat at the table with those folks, went head to head with those folks, kind of, in my opinion, in a lot of instances, smoked those people. These are people that are considered the leading scholars on the Constitution. And I think what this proves is that you don't have to go to Harvard, you don't have to go to Yale, you don't have to teach the Constitution in an Ivy League school in order to understand these documents and the principles on which the Constitution was founded. So when I heard Bill was coming to Vacaville, I knew that we had to get him up here. I went to pick him up at the airport this morning, so he could just chat with you guys a little bit about some stories about the Constitution and the founders, maybe answer some questions, and you could get just a taste of what I'm privileged to get virtually every day from Bill Norton. So I'd like to introduce my friend Bill Norton. How much time?
As much as they need.